just trying to get to you like I wanna make you mine. I'm just spending all my thoughts.
I recall getting this at roughly 7:30 p.m. So pretty much right as they were getting ready to close for the day. Since they close at 8, but that just means no more people can come in after 8 p.m. One of the first things I recall doing today was finishing off the beef jerky Mom got me for Valentine's Day. Because it's dried and salted beef, it can last a long time, but I don't believe the same can be said for the capsaicin. The supposed ghost pepper beef jerky was barely spicy at all. And the other one, I believe it's the root beer habanero beef strips. That one was also barely spicy. After all the time that's elapsed. This is where I stand currently in regards to the research tree. This is the first of the blossom roads. Just started adding those in since I pretty much just unlocked it. That comes with a higher culture bonus than the old dwarven roads. And this is where we are currently for the Fellowship adventures. Those blacksmith guild badges aren't the easiest. And here's where I am currently in regards to the endless excavation ancient wonder. I believe I stayed up a bit to start work on this styrofoam drawing. All I know is that I definitely stayed up to finish that one, the one that's sort of leaning. I recall cutting my nails with a nail clipper, hunkering down and finishing my VHL Central assignment for Monday. I did these things before my pool test at around 11, but as usual, I managed to arrive 20 minutes early despite going on a lengthy walk to the Hartwell building. I made a stop in which I briefly helped to set down a few flags that were being placed in honor of Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I'm currently producing more toolboxes. Excuse me. I thought for sure I would have enough nightshade berries by that point. I guess it's just barely not quite enough. I'm going to need sunflowers if I want to place down more of the blossom streets. This is where I am currently in regards to the Mountain Hall's Ancient Wonder. And when I made it to the Hartwell building, yeah, that's what I meant, the Hartwell building. I went inside and had a brief conversation. I picked up this information regarding the Brock because I might have to. They were tabling all semester, I guess, and I may have to live on campus in order for everyone to be able to afford to continue on to grad school. My pool test went pretty well. It was the now standard spitting test, in which I basically spit into a tube until the liquid spit reaches the fill line, which isn't very high. On average, most people will take somewhere between 2 and 5 minutes to get the required sample amount for the COVID pool test. I believe it's called a pool test because it's a pool or group of people. At least that's my understanding of it. And this time around I was on the shorter end of the spectrum on that. While I was on my walk to Hartwell, I picked up any trash that I saw onto campus with that same plastic bag I used to carry the Brock stuff, and then my lunch that I got from the Harrison Dining Hall after my immediately after my COVID pool test. The process for which only took 10 to 15 minutes at most, I would estimate. I was out of there before 11 p.m., which is typically the time I will schedule a COVID pool test. Also, in those early morning hours, I also set up an appointment for my Talk Abroad conversation, my fourth and last one. The last thing I did today before starting this filming was to work on my script for my second voice thread. Talk Abroad reaction, essentially, and to post it onto Blackboard. It has me, I'm starting to believe at this point that I don't get a 3% penalty for each day that this particular assignment is late, but it'd still be good to get it out of the way. Also, finishing up that VHL Central assignment that was due by the end of today. Which, if I recall, I did shortly before my national security class, during which I took just these notes during the first session of the War Games simulation, during which, within our breakout room in North Korea, I did my best to contribute to the discussions of the moves we would make. I copied this directly from the chat within Collaborate Ultra. And this is so to help me to remember all the moves we decided to make and what ended up going down in the war game simulation. Although I have to say, it's already quite concerning. It seems to be quite the escalations and whatnot. For the first 2 weeks, the first part of the simulation. I had already managed to make the recording of me reading this script out in the correct order, because I kept having to insert things in between sentences in order to get the script to be long enough so that reading it out would take at least 3 minutes, so that it wouldn't be redundant, and would hopefully give a general overview without going into the specifics too much, essentially. Those were essentially the goals of this sort of activity. I currently have a 0 for that assignment because I haven't submitted it in yet. And in terms of that, I believe I'm currently still waiting for that to be saved into my drive. As I was working on this script, I actually worked on, did some messing around within my Google Drive account so that I could delete some stuff in order to make space for this recording I took of myself reading that script out, which came out to be 3 minutes and 17 seconds. I got a bit nervous at a few points while reading it out, including near the end a concern that it would actually go over into 4 minutes and thus be too long as I read it out. I did my best to pronounce everything correctly. Though I held the phone up like this and flipped the video into selfie mode so that I would ideally only get wall during the filming. Early on today, I found that these styrofoams, these blocks had been damaged due to they being in the same bag as something with full water bottle packs. That was a mistake. I also found out that the healthier than Pringles snack Dad got me were some raisins, which I ate a bit of whenever I felt hungry during those early morning hours. I also made sure to hydrate myself, which may explain why I was able to provide the saliva sample so quickly. It's hard to produce saliva if you're dehydrated. I believe I experienced that the first time I did that saliva test for COVID. during my walk, when I was at the campus mall, that's when that free stop for the Restore organization in solidarity with Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I initially thought all those flags were flowers, orange flowers. I couldn't think of any particular Pacific flowers that are orange, no Pacific names. I believe I may have briefly thought tulip, but those are typically more red than orange. This is one of the two Mountain Dew Rise energy drinks that I got from the Nest at around 7:40 p.m. right after getting dinner. At the Harrison Dining Hall. I've been keeping this between then and me starting to eat the dinner. I kept this within my mini fridge, within the plastic bag, with these milks and these energy drinks. I had the other one, which was the green flavored one. I believe lemon and lime, something like that, while I was working on the script. At some point, after my national security class, I waited until roughly 1:45, I would say. Roughly that time. Thinking there was going to be a personnel committee meeting at that time based off of something I read within GroupMe. These are the Sharpie markers I'm currently using. And some of them are here too. Currently. But oddly enough, the personnel committee meeting didn't seem to come. I ended up falling asleep at around 2 p.m. while I was trying to do 5-minute production periods for my workshops, producing beverages, in order to try and help out within the fellowship adventures. I have no idea if we're going to be able to make it in time. That Blacksmith Guild badge is probably one of the most difficult adventure items to get. Since it requires a day-long production period of supplies, the very longest one. And that's what I'm currently doing. I believe I woke up at around 5:20 p.m. I briefly called to try and join the 5 p.m. personnel committee meeting, only to find out that there was no personnel committee meeting after all. Which is probably a good thing, because otherwise I would have been late for it. Considerably late, too. And this was when I tried to join that imaginary meeting through Microsoft Teams via my student email. I registered for the in-mark ceremony on the 18th of May at 5 p.m. Officially starting the preparations to attend my graduation from college. At some point relatively early on, maybe after my national security class or something like that, I called my mom. We talked about the possibility of contacting the people at Access VR to try and provide some aid for grad school. Excuse me. Now, that morning walk was quite enjoyable. The campus was so beautiful. I enjoyed the coolness of the light breezes and shade and the warmth of the sun. All while walking around the campus that provided some good views, and incredibly enough, doing that was quite fortunate because I got to, for the first time in a while, do something to be active on campus. As doing that has been difficult during these pandemic times. But I'm doing pretty well. I ended up getting a grade of 88 on my policy memo, which my professor rated as a B+.
So pretty good, but it dropped my grade a bit from roughly 93% to roughly 91%. Although to be exact, it's a 91.70. I'm thinking that's an A minus. So it is a pretty good grade. As we're heading towards the end of the semester, I do have concerns about my grades. And I know that I'm going to need to make a push to get my grades up in these last few weeks. And I can feel that some major assignments and exams are going to be coming on, so I'm going to be needing to do some studying. Also, during the early morning hours, I also did some work on the 99th Dan Hamming, during which I contacted Vion Support, which is something I'll do occasionally when I have some kind of concern. This time it was because there was no walking towards the camera action for child characters, which I wanted because I was using a child character to depict a dwarf police officer crossing the street to arrive onto the scene of an incident. Nuestra conversación sobre vida en la ciudad y las ciudades en general fue agradable. Estuve nervioso un poco antes la conversación, pero cuando la conversación enmendaba esa sensibilidad exenosa desapareció. Mi compañera conversación me ayuda cuando tiene dificultad en hablando y comprendo durante la conversación. Hablamos sobre la ciudad de Rochester porque vivo cerca esa ciudad. Igualmente, hablamos también sobre las ciudades en Ecuador porque mi compañera conversación vive cerca una ciudad. Antes ese, hablamos sobre la ciudad de Nueva York. Durante estas conversaciones, hablamos sobre muchas las actividades varias puedes hacer en la ciudad. Después de ese, hablamos sobre nuestras actividades favoritas hacer en la ciudad. Me gustan las comidas diferentes puedes encontrar en las ciudades. Mi compañera conversación se gusta ir a parques
de la ciudad. Entonces hablamos sobre por qué es importante ser punctual. Siendo punctual te permite ir a más eventos y tener más diversión los en. En general, esta actividad me ayuda a practicar el idioma español.